Alright, let's go over the balance patch changes for Team Fatal Fury, starting off with Terry. Now Terry, along with Vanessa and Ralph, was one of the alleged top tiers in the game, but quite honestly, his nerfs are pretty small compared to what Vanessa and Ralph got, and honestly, they're not even that bad. I think he got off pretty easy compared to those two, so let's go over what he's got. So, Close B, now this one's actually a buff, so this is now a low hitting move, which is good because, more low hits. You can kind of walk up pressure like this, and that's something that is really useful for Terry. And then next up, Close D is going to have an expanded distance recognition similar to what Yashiro got. Reduce overall frames by 7, that's whatever, but more importantly, reduce attack startup from 8 to 6, so this comes out pretty fast now. Now this is really good because when you're jumping in with a D, jumping in with a normal, typically I recommend against using Close D to follow up because of the hit recognition, and also it starts up slower. But with these two buffs, you could pretty much use it like a Close C, which is good because the damage is more than a Close C, and it's just better overall. And also, there's a pretty good frame chat that you could do with Terry. So you could do crouching A into Close D. So this is a really good frame trap because the Close A leaves you plus, and if they try to press a button in between or even jump out, you're going to tag them with Close D, get a full confirm, and they're going to eat shit. So good stuff for Terry. Really good stuff, honestly. Next up, Crouching B, increase attack startup from 4 to 5 frames and reduce frontside hitbox. Okay, yeah, that's a nerf, but that's not too bad. You still get your 2 hits, you still get your 3 hits up close. And honestly, even though it's a little bit slower, that's not going to hurt your game too much. Next up, Jumping C, expanded the hitbox upwards. So this is going to be a better air-to-air now. So let me test that out. Oops. Yeah, if someone's pressuring you and they're going to try to jump over you for something, your Jumping C is going to be a good way to challenge that. I mean, it already is, but that's going to be a little bit better. Next up, Jumping B, forward or backwards, expanded the hitbox upwards, so it's going to be a better air-to-air. And they reduced the above facing hurt box, so it's going to be harder to hit Terry out of this actually, so that's pretty good for Terry. Next up, Jumping Blowback added a hurt box right before the attack triggers. So because of the little wind up here, see if I can get this right. He kind of winds back a bit, so it's kind of hard to hit him before. But they're gonna make it so it's a little bit easier to hit Terry. Not really a big deal. This move comes out pretty fast, so in most cases it's gonna trade anyways. Next up, this is a nerf here, but to me not really that major, although a little bit too far in my opinion still. So first of all, this comes out a lot slower, so it's much easier to see. They decrease the damage from 120 to 80. I think that's fair. It's a hard to see overhead, so it shouldn't do more than 100 damage in the first place. They reduce the knockback distance on blocks, so if the opponent happens to block it, it's going to be a lot more punishable. So they're a lot closer, it's just more unsafe. What else? Now moves closer to the opponent upon landing, so if you do connect with it, you're going to be closer to the opponent. Not really a big deal. It's a soft knockdown anyways. And they also reduce the travel distance. You can still get it from kind of close, but you probably won't get it from as far as you used to anymore. And then let's see. Yeah, that's the nerf for EX Crack Shoot. I still think it should do a hard knockdown. There are other characters like K-Dash who could use his command normal overhead into EX Minute Spike and then go into a DP. So in terms of hard to see overheads that getting a lot of damage here, there are other characters that could get that nerf too. Not just Terry. Next up, Power Charge D version. They greatly increased the overall frames on whiff. So let me hold up after this. Yep, that's a lot of recovery right there. I don't really think that's a nerf because who's using this on neutral, honestly? It's not that great in 15. It's not plus like it was in 14, and you don't even go into power dunk off of this, so honestly it's an insignificant nerf. If anything, they should add some more functionality to this move because right now it's kind of useless. Next up, power dunk. They increased the combo scaling value. Oops, kind of messed up there. There you go. So that deals a little bit less damage in a combo. Not a big deal because that's just a regular power dunk and not the EX. So most people end the combo with Rising Tackle for the damage over Power Dunk, so not too big of a deal in my opinion. Power Dunk D version, they removed the guard point during the beginning of the attack. So yeah, this used to have armor at the beginning, and now it doesn't anymore. Kind of a bummer. It was a random thing that they gave Power Dunk anyways, and honestly, it's not gonna affect Terry that much because he's got Rising Tackle, and between the two, it's not like there's any difference between the two. In fact, Rising Tackle is the better reversal because it starts up faster, whereas if you use Power Dunk, it's easier for the opponent to safe jump you and also react to the armor sometimes. So not really too much of a loss for Terry. Next up, Buster Wolf EX, reduce physical and grab invulnerability, and now invulnerable to projectiles during attacks. So this is actually more invincible, and let me see if I can test this. Goes to projectiles. Yep. So this is really good because Buster Wolf travels really far, and so if you see people throwing out this, you can just do Buster Wolf as a reaction. Honestly, I think Terry's better off with this patch. Those nerfs, they're not significant. You're losing out on stuff that wasn't even that big of a deal. He still got meter positive combos. He still got big damage. This is what he gets. Over 450 off of 1.5 bars. Right? That's not even the most optimal damage combo, right? The one that ends in Rising Tackle after Power Charge does like 480 or close to 500. So his damage is still there. He still has a reversal. He still has all the big tools. In fact, this is just better. Crack Shoe is weaker, but again, that's just a gimmicky overhead that you use to close out the round. So honestly, the stuff that he's losing, you're not gonna miss it too much. But the stuff that he's gaining, those are good. I mean, in terms of plus minus net, I think Terry's better off than the nerfs here. So he got off scotch-free compared to Vanessa and Ralph, in my opinion. All right, let's move on to his brother Andy. Alright, let's cover Andy. So I kind of want to cover two changes at once. The first change is that his crouching A is going to have more range. And the second is that his commando is going to move forward on hit. When you cancel it. So now this link's going to be more possible, which gives him 4 hits to confirm. So really good for Andy because going from his commando where you kind of had to use just the 3 hits, which is still a good amount of hits, but having more hits is always good. And also it means you could do it from a little bit further away. So for example, if you're trying to avoid someone teching, you can do a little further away and get that commando and it will still reach. So to me, that's a really good buff for Andy. Next up, crouching B is going to have a little bit less range. I don't quite understand. I didn't think that was really an issue before. Crouching D is going to have increased frames where the attack is lower. So the low profiling portion of this move, I guess Andy's going to be Andy's low profile is going to be active for a little while longer. Kind of minor. Jumping blowback is going to have shortened active frames by 1, so a little bit less active. I guess some people thought that was a problem. Yeah, you see it kind of whiffing there. Let's see. Next up, his target combo. This one's kind of a weird change, but the knockback on this has changed. So it blows them away. Now in the corner, you can actually get some new combos off of this, like that. Now I really don't think that's too much of a good buff because in the corner, this already does more damage. So yep, 391 compared to 313, a lot less damage. So I'm not sure what the purpose of this change is. I don't really think it adds anything new to Andy. In fact, might even take away some stuff because he was able to get this confirm and go into quick max, but now he won't be able to do that because they're knocked away. So you're gonna have to do a Zanakin right away after that, and kind of losing out on damage there. Next up, Zanakin C version and EX version. So they increased the movement speed and expanded the hitbox forward, so it's basically gonna have better range and hit more consistently. And they also reduced the knockback distance on block for the C version, so basically it's gonna be more punishable here. And wait a minute, reduce knockback. Yeah, that means they're gonna end up closer. So Andy's still kind of far away, so maybe the opponent could still get a crouching C. No, just a sweep. So actually, it's not even that punishable. So not too much of a bad change for Andy. Now the other important change is that this is gonna hit more consistently. So the weird thing before the patch was that mid-screen this would connect more consistently the closer you are to a wall. But then previously, if you're all the way in a corner, this would actually drop a lot. So because of the increased movement speed and also the expanded hitbox, it's going to land more consistently. So you don't have to worry about this combo dropping ever again from mid-screen. Alright, next up, Kuhadan D version, now invertible to projectiles and reduce overall frames by 5. So this can now go over projectiles. Let me test this out. Kind of botching the input here. There you go. Now, not immediately on startup. You do have to kind of have this move come out already. But still good. I think it's still too slow for this to kind of really beat out projectiles. But I guess if you're anticipating it and you throw it out early enough, you will end up punishing them. But to me, not really a major buff, but at least some sort of way to get through fireballs if you're having trouble dealing with them. Next one. This one's a pretty big change. So his DP, C version, they changed the opponent blowback on the first hit. So now this is going to make this combo possible here. So you're going to get that instead of Zanakin's, which is 479. So let me try this with Zanakin now. 472. A little bit of difference, single digit damage difference, but still good because Shoryudan, the first hit does 70 damage and Zanakin does 60 damage. So slight damage increase. In longer combos or other combos, I'm sure you could get more damage, but this is a pretty good buff because previously if you did CDP into his fireball super, the first hit already knocks him up into the air, and so this typically wouldn't combo, it wouldn't work. But they changed it so that the opponent is not knocked away as much, so now the super cancel is possible. Okay, next up, Cho Repadon. I think that's the kick super here. So they expanded the hitbox on the beginning of the attack, so I don't really think this adds anything new. All of his combos are pretty much the same from what I can see. So to me, not really a big deal. Probably just a better hitbox, really, for anti-air purposes. Alright, that's it for Andy. I think it's just better hit confirms and a better corner combo and better supers and just more consistency in having his combos land. But in terms of functionality, nothing major. In terms of nerfs, nothing major. So he's mostly unchanged, just a little bit better overall. Alright, let's move on to Joe. Alright, last up we have Joe. So Joe doesn't have a whole lot of changes. He doesn't really need any buffs or nerfs. So let's start off with close C. This comes out 2 frames faster, so this puts it up there with other close normals in terms of speed. Nothing major. It's not going to create any new links because it's just not possible for him because of the distance recognition. And then next up, crouching D is going to start up a couple frames faster as well. So it's going to be harder for opponents to escape this kind of pressure like this. Crouch, crouch, jab, into that, into Hurricane Upper. And then jumping B is going to have a reduced attack setup from 6 to 4 frames. So if opponents are jumping on you like this, now it's going to be a better air-to-air. And you can hit it a little bit later on your jump in. Oops, used the wrong button. But there you go. So always good that it starts up faster. The command slide is going to increase frames where the attack is lower. So his low profile is going to be extended during the animation. But they're going to expand their hurtbox upwards. So Joe was able to slide under a lot of things, like for example Ralph's Far D and some other moves, and they're going to make it so that it slides under less stuff. So we're not going to test every single move out there, but just know that it's going to be easy to hit Joe out of this. Now the only exception is against projectiles. So the upper area where they made him more vulnerable is actually going to be invertible to projectiles. So he'll still be able to slide under Psycho Balls and Venom Shots and things like that. Next up, Hurricane Upper A version. Increase overall frames by 2 and increase hip stop on hit. Alright, nothing really major there. Same thing with the C version. Tiger Kick B version. So they're going to reduce the attack startup from 8 to 6. So it's going to be a little bit faster. And it's going to be now invertible to in-air attacks. So it's going to be better as an anti-air. And then lastly, damage for the hit besides the startup was increased from 50 to 80. So kind of similar to what was going on with Iori, where if you hit with the beginning of this move, it deals 80 damage. But if you hit them kind of later in the move, like let's say, let me demonstrate this better. Have the opponent kind of jump up vertically. If you hit them with the tail end of this move, it does less damage than if you hit them from the beginning of the move. So it used to be 50, but now they're going to universalize it so that it's only going to deal 80 damage no matter which hitbox that you're hitting them with. So that's a really good buff for Joe because, you know, now it's a better anti-air, comes out faster, and it's always going to do 80 damage. Now the D version of this is going to swap from 6 frames to 8 frames. So the D version was actually faster than the B version, which is surprising. But now they're going to make it slower, and they're going to increase the invincibility on this, so it's going to be better as a reversal option. Next up, the Bakuretsuken, which is his DP punches. They're going to increase the opponent knockback duration during the part with the multiple hits, and then reduce the stun frames from 10 to 5. So basically, Joe had a stun combo in this game. He still does, actually. But now there's a different stun combo. But they thought they took it out, but players are always going to find ways around. So, SNK, you gotta patch this out again. Next up, Screw Upper Super version. Actually, let me make sure I got this right. Yep. Increase time invincible. Huh. Alright, let's see if it works as a wake-up option. And it does work as a wake-up option. So Joe has an additional wake-up option besides Tiger Kick. Not that I think he needs it, but hey, at least he's got something that deals more damage, right? Alright, yeah, that's really it for Joe. Like I said, not a whole lot of changes functionally. He's mostly the same character, just a few quality of life improvements to him.